I'm Todd Fugelberg, and louder? Okay, I can talk a little bit louder. I'm Todd Fugelberg, and I'm going to act as moderator tonight. This is the Brandon University Faculty Association Executive and Negotiating Team. Before we begin, I just want to explain how this is going to work. There's a microphone there, and basically if you could stand up and indicate you wanted to ask a question, or at least raise your hand to indicate you want to ask a question, and then stand up, the mic will be brought to you, and then if you could ask your question and then give us a chance to respond.
We're getting a message from the back. What's that, Lorraine?
Still? Okay.
And back up.
If you can back up, you won't get feedback then?
Okay.
On the stage.
Yes.
Okay, how is that in the very back? Can you hear me in the very back? Okay. So I'm Todd Fugelberg, and I'll basically, the other thing I should probably mention, there's two things. The members of the Brandon University Student Association Executive are here, in particular Deandra Chisillon, the president, and they are recording this session. So I just need to make everybody aware of that.
Okay.
And the other thing is, you have questions. Hopefully we'll be able to answer most of them. In some cases, the negotiating team will not be able to answer some specific questions because it pertains to things that are actively in mediation right now. Okay, now I'd like to let the executive and the negotiating team introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm Joe DeLeckie. I am the president of the Faculty Association and chief negotiator.
My name is David Winter. I am a professor of history, and I'm on the negotiating team as well.
I'm Elizabeth MacDonald Murray. I'm in the English department. I am on the executive of BUFA, and I'm also on the negotiating team.
Hello, I'm Derek Brown. I'm a philosopher, member of the philosophy department. I've been in Brandon for 4.5 years, and I'm on the negotiating team for the first time.
My name's Rick White. I'm in the Faculty of Education, and this is my first time sitting with this group here.
Hi everybody, welcome. My name is Kelly Saunders. I'm a professor of political science and I'm the arts representative on BUFA Executive.
I'm Marianne Reed. I'm a librarian and I'm treasurer for the BUFA Executive.
Hi there, I'm Bill Payton. I'm secretary to BUFA. I'm on the negotiating team, and I currently am president of the Manitoba Organization of Faculty Associations. Welcome.
Hi, and welcome to you. I'm Dennis Olson. I'm the vice president of the Faculty Association.
Thanks, Ben.
Well, we'll try again. Hi, I'm Dennis Olson. I'm in the psychology department. I'm the vice president of the Faculty Association, and for the first time in a number of years, I'm not on the negotiating team.
Hi, I'm Bill Gordon. I'm in the School of Music representative on BUFA, and I'm a professor in the School of Music.
Okay, what I'd like to start off is just give a short, very short, brief history of what led us to this point, and then I would like to open up the floor to questions. I'm a physicist. The Brandon University Faculty Association represents approximately 240 employees at Brandon University, including professors, librarians, instructional associates, administrative associates, and sessional instructors. Our last collective agreement expired March 31st, 2011. Negotiations moved slowly during the summer, mostly due to the inability of the administration's negotiating team to find time to meet with BUFA's team, particularly their chief negotiator, a lawyer from Winnipeg. BUFA's team also was frustrated by a flat refusal by the administration's team to discuss monetary issues until all language issues had been dealt with. Language issues included the administration's opening of almost every article in the collective agreement, an act that is unprecedented in Canadian university history. And they were attempting to rewrite the collective agreement to increase the administration's power in ways which would have a significant negative impact on job security of faculty and our ability to offer quality programs. At the commencement of the strike vote on September 24th, Members of BUFA had been without a contract for almost 6 months. Very little progress had been made in negotiations. We did not take the step of calling a strike vote lightly, but the negotiating team concluded that there had been little progress made and there was no indication that the administration's team was in any way willing to, I shouldn't say that, they were not willing to negotiate in a reasonable, a meaningful way. It was hoped that a positive strike vote would provide the impetus to get things moving so that we could get to a quick, fair, and equitable resolution of this situation. Despite bargaining until nearly 4 a.m. on the morning of October 12th, the employer had moved very little on many of the most important issues, and it was deemed that we needed to take job action in order to, again, provide an impetus for negotiation. The executive negotiating team, and indeed most members of BUFA, believed that this would be a very short strike. The university's own budget documents indicate that it has the necessary resources to negotiate a fair settlement and have money left over to hire 5 new administrators at a cost of about $200,000. Since the strike was called, our negotiating team has worked very hard to bring about a fair settlement, fair resolution to this job action, but their efforts have been hampered by certain tactics that were being employed. There has been some progress on language issues, but even though we are very close, or at one point we're very close to some agreement on some issues, the employer insists on all or nothing approach to bargaining. So that means that even though we were at one point close on some issues, we can't get them off the table because they insist that in packaging those near acceptable language with some things that are completely unacceptable. The employer is in this way preventing progress from being made. With regards to salary, since the start of the strike, BUFA has made 4 different salary proposals now.
More than that.
5?
We made 2 more yesterday.
2 more, yes. Oh, yeah, that's right, so 6. With a reduction of about 6% from the start of the strike. From the start of the strike until now, it's a reduction of about 6% in our total demands over the life of the contract. Our last salary proposal met their total salary proposal with the exception of arbitration in the final year. The administration has made 1 new salary proposal with an increase of 0.15% since the strike began. In summary, I'd just like to say that BUFA is working very hard toward an end to the strike. In my opinion, the administration is very simply not appearing to work towards an end to this situation. Okay, now we'd like to open the floor to questions.
Anybody have a question?
Anybody have a question?
What were you asking for a wage increase over how many years?
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry?
Yeah, we opened our bargaining with 5, 5, and 5, which is less than the amount that was granted in the way of an increase to Brandon University by the government over the next 3 years, which is 5-4, 5-4, and 5-4. We opened with that, and we opened with a number of other types of improvements. One of the things you know about bargaining, you realize about bargaining, is that both sides, when they open up a bargaining procedure, they start off with sort of a wish list of what would be the ideal outcome from their perspective. And generally what happens is that by the time you get down to close to a settlement, a number of those things are gone. So 5, 5, and 5 was our opening. That's a little over, it works out to be a little over 16% in 3 years. They opened with 0.02. Who's next? Don't be afraid.
There must be some more questions. There we have a question over here.
Should we introduce our newcomer? We all
Barrett. I'm the administrative assistant for BUFA.
Todd, I'm hearing that there's a lot of people back there. I don't know if we could get some people to come up and sit up here.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people back.
You know, the other thing we have to think about is windows there. People have a sidewalk here.
Ben, sorry?
Yeah, if some people could move up a little bit.
Especially the younger people, there's room to sit on the floor.
We got room for more up front. There's still more room if a few more people want to come up.
There's still more room at the front if people want to come and sit on the floor like other people in. Thank you.
I think we can still proceed with the question while people are filing forward.
What was the last proposed? What percentage was proposed? We started at 5, 5, and 5, but what was the last?
The last one that was, well, I actually tabled 3 in the last few days. The one that we tabled on the 30th, closer? The one that we tabled on the 30th had it at 2.6, 3, and 3.25, I think. When we attempted to meet the salary percentages over the 3-year contract that the university maintained was their position, that they couldn't go beyond that. What we looked at was 2, 4, 2, and a salary arbitration in the 3rd year.
Joe?
Yeah.
You missed one. You missed the second one.
Yeah, no, I did miss the second one because it said that the one on the 30th and the last one, right? we had one in between that was somewhere in between there.
2.6 arbitrate
and 2.9. But they rejected that. What we were trying to do was to trying to act within the numbers that they had given us in terms of an overall salary settlement. They, through the mediator, advised that they were not going to increase their salary offer beyond 4.4%. So we tried to structure an agreement that retained that, but then allowed for something else that they wanted, which was arbitration. So we were going to arbitrate the third year salary. And they rejected that. We had advised the mediator that that if this agreement was accepted, that we could be back to work as early as Wednesday, and we could resume classes and carry on with the term. But the bargaining team for the university said no. And the problem that we were confronted with at the end of that session yesterday was, well, gee, what do they want, right? We met their salary requirements, and yet they still said no. So, what happened after that, from the point of view of the process, was that the mediator, who was tired, and the two parties, both sides, who were tired, decided to take a pause and reflect upon what had occurred and reflect upon where we were going to go from here. So our understanding is that tomorrow the mediator is going to be back in town, although I personally haven't talked with him.
Although today I did.
You did, yeah. And Derek today met with one of the members of the bargaining team to deal with a couple of language issues. But we'll see what happens when mediation formally resumes.
There's been a question from the back. Can you get responders to repeat the question that was asked? Into the microphone.
Question from the back, where?
No, so people, when questions are asked, can people repeat them into the microphone? Okay.
What is where is coal at right now? What percentage is it at?
The cost of living went up The question is, what is the cost of living? What's the CPI COLA? It's 3.5%. It's going up. We were trying originally to structure a cost of living adjustment clause in the salary schedule. We dropped that, but our anticipation is that the rate of inflation is going to go up. Probably it'll be in the range of 4.5 by the end of the contract. So we tried to one of the things we tried to do at the beginning was to build in some kind of protection for the real incomes of our members. We have since, in an attempt to resolve the matter, in an attempt to come to a negotiated settlement, we did drop the COLA clause from our salary package.
So once the strike is over and the term resumes, do you know if we're going to get an extension on the term, or how are you guys planning on helping us stay so our GPA doesn't drop because of the 3-week strike?
The question is, what would BUFA be doing, or what we would be willing to do in relation to what happens to the term and all that sort of thing when we resume working. The question about the nature of the term, whether it's extended or not, and the conditions under which that is going to be undertaken, that is a purview of the Senate of Brandon University. Our faculty association, as we did in 2008, will do whatever we can to ensure that that the term is that all of the course requirements and materials are completed. We also typically include in our back to work protocol a statement about things like fair treatment by both parties for students and accommodation for the fact that there was a work stoppage. We will do whatever we can. The ultimate decision on the length of the term, whether it's extended or not, and those kind of things are not actually within our purview. They're within the purview of the Senate.
I'd also, encourage students, please, to have a look. To have a look at the back of the hall, because you'll see that the BUFA members have been signing a pledge that there will be no tests held on the first day back. We will not do that to you, okay?
That doesn't mean there won't be any tests ever. It's also worth noting, I think that presently classes are scheduled to end December 4th or December 7th or something like that this term. December 7th, and then there's an exam period. And then the university closes usually December 22nd or 23rd.
23rd is our first day off and
Right.
back on the
So there's that kind of wiggle room to play with. If you need to extend classes for a bit and compress the exam term or something like that, Senate sits down and tries to figure out how to make that work. And of course, we're willing to do whatever it takes to achieve that.
Question as a parent over here. Is BUFA, I understand how the argument is between BUFA and the university administration here, but I sort of feel like the students are caught in the middle. Almost as pawns, if you will. And I'm wondering, is BUFA willing to extend this thing to such a point that this year could be gone, and so these students lose a year of education, or also to lose a year of income or earning potential? Are they willing to go with this thing that long, or are they willing to consider something like arbitration to finish this thing off quickly? What's your position on that?
First of all, the question had to do with the position of students in this dispute between BUFA and the university administration. It also had to do with the question of our disposition towards things like arbitration and the length, right, of this action. With respect to the students, we have never attempted, nor either directly, indirectly, overtly or implicitly to place the students of our students at Brandon University in the middle of this dispute. We do not look upon our students. We do not look upon our students as pawns. And in fact, on the Friday of the first week of the strike, we spent a morning of in conciliation, attempting to get a memorandum of understanding signed by the employer and us that we advanced that would enjoin both parties not to impose any academic or other penalties on students, regardless of whether they chose to respect the picket lines or not. The university administration refused to sign that, and it was very disappointing for us because we wanted to do that. We wanted to have them sign this agreement so that we would be able to take the students out of the equation so they wouldn't be used as pawns. It was the university administration that refused to do that on their side. Secondly, there has been a lot of talk about the length of the strike. And it's our view that the strike could be over tomorrow if the employer would sit down and seriously complete these negotiations. The fact is that the Brandon University Faculty Association believes in collective bargaining. We believe in getting agreements at the table, either face-to-face or with the assistance of a conciliator or, if necessary, one of a mediator. We believe that that's the appropriate way to do bargaining, is to arrive at contractual arrangements in a setting particularly like the university, because at a university, of all places, we can sit down and use this time of bargaining to thoroughly address, debate, identify problems, debate potential solutions, and if both sides are acting in good faith and with goodwill, we would be able to resolve most, if not all, of our differences. We believe that is what has happened in the past in all of our negotiations, but it has not happened this time. It takes, as I used to say, two to tango, and at the moment we're the only ones on the dance floor who are seriously intending to conclude these negotiations at the table. And I will tell you that, and I don't want to take up mountains of time, but it has been, in our view, the intention of the employer to compel this round of bargaining to end in some form of compulsory arbitration or some form of arbitration. They have raised that possibility, started raising it strenuously in September and in October, and on the night before the strike action, they became very agitated about the option of arbitration. BUFA does not believe in arbitration. It's not because of any fears or anything like that that's involved with this. It's that if you go to arbitration, you take a conflict or take a situation that should be negotiated between the parties, right, and give it to the hands of a third person. And that means that both parties who are involved in the negotiation are absolved of any responsibility for the outcome. The ideal way, in the way it's supposed to work, and the way it has worked very well at a university, is that both sides take ownership of the agreement that they come to. They take responsibility for the agreement that they come to, and it is one that both sides buy into, and both the membership of BUFA and the university administration have an interest in and a stake in seeing it work. If you go to an arbitration, and if that was your intention from the beginning, right, what you end up doing is circumventing that's the strength of a collectively bargained agreement at the end of the day, and the viability of it, and the ability to operate within it in an environment that everyone agrees to, because we've agreed to it at the table. Taking that out of the equation, it reduces or eliminates the incentive for one party or the other. It eliminates the incentive to bargain. We can just sit here and say no to each other for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, because at the end of the day, we know that some person who is perhaps more than likely unacquainted with the university setting, and more likely unacquainted with Brandon University setting, that they will make some kind of decision that generally nobody likes. Makes it difficult to live with. But it's an essential component of a collegial university, the kind that we have, that we bargain together and come together with an agreement in good faith.
I was just wondering, in regards to a term extension, we are already losing time now, and now you're talking about going into our Christmas holidays. What kind of flexibility or support can we see for students from the staff receiving flexibility due to already scheduled work or family commitments that have been scheduled around our original course outline?
So can you rephrase that? Are you talking about time that you won't be able to work, or time you won't be able to spend at Christmas with your family?
Right, because we were told we're done class on December whatever, and now we've made work schedules or family commitments. So what kind of flexibility or support can we see from you guys?
We always have these, Bill Payton, we always have these kinds of issues in regular term. And there is a provision within the Senate arrangements that allows me as a professor to give an extension to a student. And that happens if a student is ill, for example, for a significant period of time, and that allows them of the order of, I think it's about 3 months, to complete that piece of work. So that's already there to be used. Clearly, you will have to make your case. I mean, I'm a chair of a department, so I had some students before the strike began who had commitments like that, who came and asked me, can this be accommodated? And we accommodated it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one quick thing to that, and this is just for clarification. I'm sure you already know this. When I said earlier that classes were scheduled to end around December, when I said earlier that classes were scheduled to end on December 7th, that didn't mean that students' obligations were expected to end on December 7th. For most of our students, December 7th is like a trigger point for the most stressful time of the term, because it's it's when we enter exam time that was scheduled to go from the 8th or something up to the 22nd. So there was yeah. With no exams at all.
Well, our house studies are December 7th was our last exam.
Okay.
So that's why.
Wait, that's actually contrary to
I don't know what the specific cases, but
I'm just wondering,
in general, we're going to be willing to work with you.
I'm just asking, are you going to be flexible?
In general, most professors are going to be willing to make some sort of allowances to give the students every possible chance to do well.
I think she was waiting for a while. Oh, I gotta go with the order.
Question?
We're good to go? Excellent. All right. So you spoke about your preference for mediation or negotiating the table, and I'll admit as a...
It's yours. It's yours. Yeah. Just unplug it.
Down.
Oh, no, mine's up. Here, I'll just talk really loud about that. Alright, if you can hear me, that's great. So, basically what I'm mentioning is, regarding your preference for negotiating at the table or the mediator, maybe it's just me, my social science experience, but I find that kind of idea a little bit disturbing. Is there a point where it's gone on too long and you go to an arbitrator, or is it a case of negotiations, bouncing off each other forever until agreement is reached? Just to follow up to that, for example, the monetary issues, you had mentioned that you had reached a proposal that ought to have met the admin side, but they rejected that. I'm not, blaming either, so I'm blaming both sides. But what I'm saying is that is there a point where you just can't come to a conclusion?
We haven't reached that point yet. The mediator hasn't The mediator believes that we haven't reached that kind of point yet, and we believe that we can continue and we can successfully conclude an agreement at the table. That is our preference, and we will continue to attempt to make that happen. We did, in fact, offer them a mediation on, arbitration on a salary year. They don't seem to be interested in that sort of thing.
Try it again.
Check.
Thank you. As a parent, I don't want to take sides here. I thank you for hosting this meeting tonight. All we see is finger pointing in both directions. A university is supposed to be a place of higher learning, of intellect and professionalism. And all we see is finger pointing. And the students, whether or not you don't want them in the middle, they are in the middle. They have paid full price for their tuition, full price for their books, full price for residence or other lodgings that they have to make. They have already lost 3 weeks. The first week was maybe acceptable. The second week was pushing it. 3 weeks now is unacceptable. Even if you extend the term, you cannot make up for that time. One parent told me, and essentially the students are being stolen from. And that maybe isn't too far from the truth. It's time for you guys to put your differences aside and get back to the classroom. And if you can't solve it within the next day or two, perhaps it needs to be solved on your Christmas break, on your time. It's time to put the students... It's time to put the students first. Without the students, all of you will be unemployed.
If I could answer that, I'll respond to it. There's no question. Thank you for your comment, but I should point out that no term in Canadian university has ever been lost due to job action. No term at York, it went for 55 days, and no term was lost. I don't want it to go anywhere near 55 days, but there are ways in order for the term to be made up.
So how much time do you got before the term is gone?
That's not a question that we can answer. That's a question of the Senate. That doesn't. The Senate sets the schedule. The Senate does the timetables, the planning, and sets the dates for it. BUFA has nothing to do with that. We don't have a representative on the Senate, and we don't make those kinds of decisions. That's a decision of a different body. What? We will negotiate at Christmas? I hope it. No. Look, there isn't any downtime for university people. Now, as students as well as faculty, we are not. If the question was, are we going to suspend the strike, go back to work, and negotiate over Christmas? No. The essence of labor relations, the essence of taking job action, whether you like it or not, and I don't mean to be harsh, is that the withholding of labor is the single most, in fact, the only thing that an organized workforce has to advance their bargaining interests. That's simply the way it is. And I can't tell you how long this is. I can't tell you how long this is going to last. I would have liked to have been able to have solved it on the Tuesday night before the strike, but we were unable to do so.
First, I want to say, you all have had your opportunity to get your education. You all have PhDs, or at least working on them. So let me have mine. And second, I actually have a question. You have been negotiating for roughly 6 months already. So when is negotiation too long? When do you have to come to that point where you say, we need to go to arbitration? It's been 6 months. You're at a deadlock. You're not going anywhere.
First of all, let me say that we are not denying you your opportunity to get a PhD. We will do everything that it takes, as we have in the past, to ensure that the requirements that for the whatever degree that you are seeking will be met. We will do our job. With respect to the length of negotiations, negotiations, like democracy, takes time and effort, and it takes patience, and I'm sorry, that's just the way of the world on that. We have been, as many people have been, as you've been, frustrated with the slow pace of negotiations and the inability of us to resolve it. But I would suggest to you that the strategy of delay and the strategy of putting things off was not as a result of us. It was a result of the other side. You have to have two parties who are willing and able and have enough good faith and goodwill to reach a collective agreement expeditiously. We have that, have always had that, and if you're looking for a question of where that delay and all that sort of thing has come from, don't look to us. We've tried really, really hard over the last 6 months.
Hi, I was a student in 2008, and I've been obviously very aware of what's been going on this time around. It's not me. And the one thing I can say is that last time it was a 17-day strike, and it was difficult, and I know that we've exceeded that. But my biggest concern moving forward is the fact that last time the faculty settled so that students could get back to class, and the result is 3 years later, there was even more to negotiate. And so if we don't find or have the faculty and the administration come to a fair settlement, this is going to be the routine. Every 3 years, there will be a faculty strike. So we need the faculty and administration to find common ground and make an agreement that is fair for both sides. And I know that students are stressing about the fact that they want to get back to class and what that means for them. And many of the students here maybe were here during the 2008 strike, or maybe here in 3 years and may experience it again. So I just wanted to say that I think that it is really important that people also think about the future and think about the fact that we don't want this to be a routine. Further to that, with the questions about what happens with the term, if it's extended, those kinds of things, the Senate will be deciding those things, and there are 8 student senators that sit on Senate, so students should be encouraged to contact them and let them know what your concerns are, so when that decision on how to deal with the term is made, that your views and concerns and interests are represented.
All right, thanks. That's a very interesting point, and it's a very good point. Here's my question on that, though. In 2008, maybe comment on this, because I was only in the first year and therefore very stupid at that point in time. But I get the impression that things are a lot worse this time, i.e. the funding issues, So regarding the admin, basically when they respond to your salary to the media, they say there's not enough money. And that's, to perhaps an extent, true because of the sort of budget shortfalls we saw in sort of the late 2010, right? So if it's harder to get a win set at this point, what hope is there to negotiate now when it was so hard in 2008? Sort of what, what's the no BS assess on what we're going to get a resolution here?
Okay, number one. Last year, the award to the Faculty Association was 3%. The grant to the university was 2%. The surplus in operating at the end of the year was close to $2 million. That has been a phenomenon of this institution. I've been here over 30 years. And basically that kind of phenomenon, except during the early 90s with the cutbacks from the federal Liberals, that's been the pattern. If we look at the budget this year, Mr. Lamont, and this has been approved by the board in April, Mr. Lamont has included 4% for faculty salaries. All of you can look at that. It's public information. So why are we at 0.05? As Joe indicated, the suggestion that we made of having 2.6, which they can afford, I can assure you, we've done the arithmetic. It's not difficult arithmetic. I've been a treasurer of this university for several years in the past. So they have the money to do that. And if in fact there is a problem in the second year, vis-a-vis deficits or the pension issue, we won't know the pension issue until April, May of 2012, after this budget year is over. And we have made concessions with respect to that. That if in fact there is still some surplus to be dealt with in the pension plan, we suggested that what doesn't add up to the 3.12 million will go into the pension plan, and that makes things better and better every year. Clearly, they chose not to take the model of arbitration in that second year, because in the third year they're offering 2.9%. So clearly they consider their problems are over then. And so we were willing to accept that. We can show where the money is there to do the first end, and they weren't willing to arbitrate in the middle. Well, I think basically there's more involved in this strike than money or language.
There are some classes at the university that have professional obligations to the community, and I've been hearing the word postponed a lot. I was wondering if those professional opportunities will be either made up or if they're going to be completely canceled.
Is there a specific case you're...
Were you referring to nursing?
I'm in music.
Music, oh.
I do like music.
As was stated earlier, once we get back to work, we'll look at all of those things and see what can be rescheduled, etc. And we'll just take a very professional attitude towards that and make sure that as much as possible we can restructure those obligations. Did you have one in mind that you really wanted to refer to? Well, the symphonic band concert was cancelled. So I don't know if Dr. McCallum has other plans for that or not, but you will find that out as soon as we return. Okay, thank you.
Hi there. We've been hearing a lot about language issues, and I was just wondering if you could clarify what that even means, or an example of what that would be as far as you're negotiating language issues.
There are a lot of them.
Stand up.
There are a lot of them, and I spent 2.5 hours today with the vice president academic discussing two. Louder still? Jeez. Okay, is that better? The question was, we've heard a lot about language issues. What does that mean? Can you give us some examples? Right? So some language issues are of a rather general, broad sort that have to do with criteria for hiring and firing people and criteria for tenure and promotion. Those are language issues. I spent 2.5 hours today with the vice president academic discussing language issues pertaining to two different issues. One of them having to do with what we call technologically mediated courses. One of them having to do with what I hope you don't think is boring, but what we call technologically mediated courses that are done over the internet and stuff like that. So there are, it's a legal document in effect that we're trying to produce. So there's little language issues that you're trying to formulate exactly how this is going to work and how it should be implemented. And the other one that we were working on today had to do with right of first refusal for sessionals that have experience. So there again, you want to work out specifics of the language. And on that matter, for example, we made movement on that for the first time on Saturday. I think it was Saturday. The employer, through the help of mediation for the first time, came to the table and said, okay, we'll work on this right of first refusal stuff. So we started working on it then, and we were Sunday, and I again was today for a few hours. I can go through more examples if you want.
There are two other ones that are really important to every student and to the ongoing operation of departmental programming. As you know, every once in a while, your professor will go on I guess they qualify for it every 7 years or something like that. They go on a sabbatical leave. And the issue is whether or not for a year, whether or not the professor will be replaced with another professor for a period of 1 year, a full replacement. Our position has been that at least for small departments who have 4 and 3 members, that the university should be obliged to replace people who go on leave. And the reason for that is that they haven't been doing that with universality or regularity. They give you a few sessional replacement hours and that sort of thing. But when you're in a small department, 4 or 3 people, you have a program of 50 some credit hours that you have to deliver if you're doing an honors if you've got an honors component. The loss of one professor and not having the courses replaced causes a great deal of problem for not only students but also faculty members trying to deliver the program in question. So we want to have for people who go on the full sabbatical, we want to have them replaced in small departments. And the university has said no, they're not interested in that. The other one has to do with there are situations where some faculty members get a workload reduction for carrying on special research projects. Generally, that's on the order of 3 credit hours. Well, if you have that occur in small departments with 2 or 3 people qualifying for that, you run into the situation of not having enough teaching power to mount all of the courses that students require for a degree. We want to have enshrine an obligation that these people will be replaced, in this case, with sessional replacements. The university is not interested in doing that. I mean, those kinds of language issues, which you think maybe it's kind of boring from the point of view of most people and not of interest, are for BUFA essential to the academic integrity of the institution. To be able to actually deliver the programs that we have been advertised and attracted students to participate in. And one of the ways in which we have been able to work in that direction all of these years is through the collective agreement. The Brandon University Faculty Association, first and foremost, has an interest in the ongoing academic integrity of this place, as well as our capacity to attract and retain faculty members to deliver those programs. Just as an aside, I've been here for 31 years, right? And a lot of people who've been here for quite a number of years have given the best years of their life to this place, and we are not interested in seeing it degrade from the point of view of what we can offer our students and what we can offer to the people in the community. And the Brandon University Faculty Association has, in every round of negotiations, tried to strengthen our capacities to do that.
Another important group in this whole debate is the sort of head organization, the end of the line organization, namely the Board of Governors. The Board of Governors this September forwarded this document to the Council on Post-Secondary Education, which is the body that deals with universities. And I want to just point out that we alerted the board's negotiators of some words that went in this document. Joe has just been talking about sabbatical leaves. So the Board of Governors says to the government, when professors are on sabbatical leaves, the positions are rarely filled, which causes scheduling problems for students in completing their programs on time. And of course, they have a problem in recruiting and retaining people even to do that job. I'll also point out that they indicate that faculty attraction and retention is a significant ongoing challenge. Every year, 10 to 15% of the faculty positions turn over. Brandon University must be able to provide competitive opportunities to recruit new faculty in terms of salaries, benefits, working conditions, classes taught, research dollars, facilities, and collaborators, because new faculty will be offered those terms by other universities. These are the folks who are supposed to be guiding this set of negotiations, but they're not.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Hamilton and I support unions. Unions as a whole fight for working standards, and that really kind of made me think about the future when Stacey said that fighting for today really affects the future. And a lot of you people here today are going to be in the workforce and belong to a union. How many of you are going to be nurses? How many of you are going to be teachers? Those professions belong to a union like many others. And so I know it's hard and for your schooling, but this is a short-term burden for a long-term benefit. So I just want to commend you guys tonight for being patient. But these people up here on the stage are working for your future, for your working standards when you go into the workforce. Thanks.
I'm Marianne Reed, and I'm treasurer. And in that capacity, I get to read the letters of support from other universities. You have no idea what the other universities are doing to support this strike. The letters are lengthy, they're outraged, they're humiliated with the fact that our professors were emailed and asked to break the strike and go back to class. Each week, the faculty associations in Canada are sending us more and more and more money. The University of Saskatchewan Faculty Association is giving us a donation to support this strike that is beyond belief in Canadian donations. And I just want to tell you that what's going on in Brandon is being seen in the national scene as the future for the union movement within Canada.
University of Saskatchewan has pledged $10,000.
It's unheard of.
Yeah.
So University of Saskatchewan's Faculty Association.
Yes.
Sorry, Faculty Association.
Not the university.
Well.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Galbraith. I'm a first-year student. First off, I want to say thank you for the staff. Having known some of you very quickly on a first-name basis is pretty awesome. I understand that this is very frustrating for all of us. However, this is it's a solution for a long-term problem, and I think we can all be patient with that. Having said that, and I understand that you, faculty, may not be able to answer these questions, but I'm concerned about the students having to pay not only for rent, for living expenses, but also we sit there wondering, should we get a full-time job? We don't know, and it's very expensive. It's really hard, and so I'm wondering, do you know any information about where we might be able to get information on if we can get some money back? I understand that books will probably be shot. However, the term to drop out of a term with no penalty. It would be really awesome to have that extended and to get our money back for this term, and that way we can work and until this is over, because we understand that this is a solution to a long-term problem. However, we need to be able to afford our living, and that would be easy for us to stop going, okay, should I be studying for this next test or what, and to just be able to get a full-time job and come back next term with a fresh start. As I said, books are probably shot, but do you guys have any idea of what we can do? Where we can go or who we can ask?
Fees are set, of course, by the Board of Governors. you have representation on the Board of Governors if they would just allow them to meet. And those kinds of questions could be asked directly in your case. I know the university at this point has no intention of that kind of approach as yet, because they have to have a Board of Governors meeting, which they don't seem to want to have, in order to resolve those kinds of questions.
Then what can we do?
Basically, you can support your members and ask for the board to meet.
Hi guys, so I just want all the students here to know that we are trying to work on the tuition issue and refunding and compensation for students. I know that at York University, when they had their 3-month strike, there was compensation for students. They had the option to drop the term or continue. This is something that we're looking at doing. We have a petition in our office that you can sign, a hard copy petition. As Board of Governors members, Jonathan Keane and I have been trying diligently to schedule a meeting with the Board of Governors of the university so that we can forward your concerns and get some of these things settled so that we can move forward as a student population. We are working very, very hard to answer your questions. Please feel free to forward the concerns to us. Write letters to the Board of Governors. Write letters to the Board of Governors. Voice your concerns. They need to have a meeting. We need to deal with these things.
Hi, can you just explain to me why the Board of Governors can't meet?
Deandra, can you?
I said, well, I understand they can't meet, so can you explain why they can't meet?
They can't.
They can meet. They won't meet. We haven't had a sound answer yet. There's no policy outlining how many people need to call the Board of Governors meeting. We've been in contact with the Chair of the Board of Governors. We've been in contact with the Minister of Advanced Post-Secondary Education, trying to get a Board of Governors meeting called. We are doing everything we can. I assure you.
So why, it sounds like that perhaps from the onset the university was interested in forced arbitration. What would benefit them? Why would they want that?
Well, so hypothetically,
You're not close enough.
I'm not close enough yet.
Where if you live?
So thanks, Flint. No, forward with the mic, not with my feet.
He's a philosopher.
I'm a philosopher. Sometimes my head's in the clouds, and other times I teach logic. So the question was, remind me? Why would someone want to send stuff to binding arbitration? Right. So if you imagine a scenario in which at the beginning of the bargaining process, one side has their list of proposals and the other side has their list of proposals. If you imagine a scenario in which at the beginning of a bargaining process, one side has their list of proposals and the other side has their list of proposals, if one of those two sides decides to just say no, hypothetically, to everything the other side says, and just keep doing that and drag that on for a long period of time, and then at the end try and push everything into binding arbitration, and is successful in doing that, the next time round, the side that succeeded in doing that doesn't have a lot of motivation to actually talk to the other side about what their proposals are and what their concerns are. If they're successful in doing that, then the next time around they can just look at those proposals and say, oh, well, last time I didn't actually have to talk to you about these things, I didn't have to dispute stuff with you, I was able to just keep going until at the end I pushed everything off the desk. And if that happens, once, twice, the whole bargaining thing is pretty much gone.
So you mean it's just weakening bargaining power?
Well, if that sort of scenario happens, then there isn't really bargaining anymore, right? So you don't want to. If you enjoy bargaining, enjoy is the wrong word. If you believe in bargaining, then that's the kind of scenario that you would definitely want to avoid.
But that's not going to end up getting more what they want in the end with monetary savings.
Well, who would get more? It can be, it could just depend on the arbitrator you get. It's also worth pointing out that arbitrations take a long time, and they cost a heck of a lot of money, and they involve doing complicated things like if there is an outstanding language issue about some subtle matter, you have to teach the people involved in the arbitration about what those issues are, and they tend to be lawyers, and they tend to have hourly rates, and you have to teach them what all those complicated issues are before the arbitration even gets going and decisions can be made. So there are lots of reasons to avoid that kind of scenario. And then as to your question, when you go to an arbitration, who's going to win? I don't know.
Keep in mind that in the case of arbitration, it's being decided by a third party, someone outside Brandon University, someone who does not understand what the issues are. The final decision which would be imposed is not necessarily what's best for Brandon University. It's what a third person thinks might work. Okay, so this is the problem with arbitration. It's not coming to an equitable agreement that we who have to live with it have worked out amongst ourselves.
Okay, my ass may be on the line for this, but my name is Kim Follis, and I'm the Chief Steward of the MGEU local at Brandon University. We go into negotiations in April, so let's hope that my brothers and sisters here solve this problem so that we don't have to walk the picket line to give our families a good living. I also work in the Senate office, and I know when Joe talks about sabbatical replacements, what I do is make sure that each and every student who graduates meets the required courses in order to graduate with their degree. I get numerous and numerous requests from students who haven't been able to take a class because the year that it was offered, they couldn't fit it into their schedule. And so I have to write to the chair of the department to ask that that student be allowed to substitute that course with something that's offered. If they replace the sabbaticals, that wouldn't happen. I know how hard it is for me to phone a student at graduation time 2 weeks before grad and say, sorry, you're not graduating because you're missing a course. So I've also worked in the non-union workplace. I'm a single mom of 2 kids, and let me tell you, the best place that I ever got a job was at Brandon University. I used to be proud to be a member of Brandon University. That doesn't happen so much anymore. But it's because of the 30 years that the MGU has negotiated a contract with only one strike that lasted 1 hour that I am able to give my family a good living, and I'm able to be proud of where I work. And like I said, it's because of the negotiations of my brothers and sisters that have allowed us to make Brandon University a good place to work, and I truly believe that it is a good education.
As a parent in September, I sent my daughter off to university full of enthusiasm. I'm sure all of the parents in this room did the same thing. And that enthusiasm has waned. Was a little bit of excitement because of the strike in those first few days. And now that enthusiasm has gone to boredom and to the feeling that the students are being used as pawns. And my question to you as faculty is, how are you going to regain that enthusiasm that those students had in September to get them through this year? What kinds of things can you do to get that same enthusiasm they had when they started university back again so that they come back to class full of vigor and ready to study? I think it's going to be hard, but I want to know if you have a plan in place to do that.
I don't think we have a collective plan among all the professors on how to do that. How will I do it when I get back to class? Sure. I like to think that, I don't know if any of my students are here, That there are a couple of them. I like to think that I have the ability to bring enthusiasm into the classroom on a regular basis, and that I would bring that back after the strike. If the students are bummed out, there are things that I can do, for lack of a better word, probably not the best phrase, but there are things that I could do in the front of the class to try and get them invigorated, try and get them excited, much like I normally do, but turn the dial up a few extra notches. And I hope I'm successful with that. And
all of you are successful with that because the students
it's hard.
are going to feel let down. Yeah, exactly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Saunders and I'm in political science, and I just want to say that as a professor it breaks my heart the fact that I had to go on strike. I did it only because we absolutely felt that we had no other choice but to move negotiations along. But is it painless for us? Is it not traumatic for us? Absolutely not. It's one of the toughest decisions that we have to make. We're in this profession because we love to teach. I work more than professors at other universities. I get paid less than professors at other universities. Trust me, I'm in this business because I love what I do every day. When I have a chance to walk into the classroom, my students say, "Hi, Kelly." I say, "Hi, Joe." "Hi, Brent." "Hi, whoever." That's why I do what I do. What will encourage me to want to go back with enthusiasm is to have an employer that respects what I do, that respects the choices that I have made to go into this profession and to want to teach, and that is willing to work with me to create a positive learning environment for my students. If I feel that I'm valued by my employer, by the administration of Brown Universities, I'm going to carry that enthusiasm into my class. I'm going to be willing to go the extra mile, day in and day out, that I do for my students. So hopefully if I can feel good about what I do because my employer values me and the work that I do in wanting to bring political science alive to my students, the students will feel that and they will reap the benefits of that. If I feel that I'm undervalued, like I'm feeling right now, my employer doesn't value what I do and the way I want to do it, that's going to carry over to the students. So the best thing we can do is have a good resolution where we feel we are valued members of this community, and the students will be able to benefit from that. Thanks.
Alright, sorry guys, I'm sure you're getting sick of me, so I'll try and make this the last question I ask tonight. So, just taking a step back here, I got a two-part question. Part one will be a yes or no, and then maybe a sentence that has no commas or semicolons in it. Okay, so is the model right now that you're projecting that you guys are negotiating good faith, and I think you are, but the administration is not, and their end goal is basically wait you out until they get to arbitration? Yes or no, and then one sentence.
I can't answer that yes or no because your question contained a phrase that's an accusation that the employer is bargaining in bad faith, which we cannot make for reasons of the Labor Relations Act. We have never said that they were bargaining in bad faith, although we do have an unfair labor practice out against them. But we can't say that. So if you rephrase your question without any reference to that sort of thing, then we can answer you yes and no.
Okay, I can't rephrase that. Also, there were at least two commas and a semicolon or period in there. Okay, fair enough. So, let's just assume that model without accusing anybody. If that is the case, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't, what is your plan and what ought our plan to be as students, if that is the case?
Is that a one-sentence answer? Yeah, we are constrained actually by the terms of the Labor Relations Act not to answer that first part of that question. The second one is up to you.
I think that you, as the students, probably the best person to go to would be the BUSU reps here, and they could maybe give you some direction in that respect. Next question.
I don't have a question, I have a very humble proposal. I'm a parent of two kids that are going to university with you guys. They were very happy when they're in September. They are very motivated and interested in getting high marks and good performance in there because of their future expectations. I find with great disappointment that the students are getting the worst part of this whole deal in the fighting between the administration and you guys. I don't know who's making the case of the students. As a parent, I believe there are 3,000 students in Brown University, suppose, right? 3,000, about that number. So we should have like 6,000 parents. As a parent, I hate to be passive and watching how a month goes by, which even in the case that you guys can reach an agreement tomorrow, or in a month from now, or 2 weeks from now, the quality of the training that my kids are getting to get their future expectations is not there, and they are not getting a service they pay for. I am in a privileged financial position, but some of these kids have made great sacrifices to pay the university working and their parents. So once again, I hate and I cannot take passively this issue, so I want to propose something to my fellow parents here to try to help you guys to get to an agreement. I'm not taking part with the university, with the teachers or the administration. I'm taking part with the students. I believe when something of this magnitude is managed in a small venue like Brandon and doesn't make a big splash, otherwise doesn't have the same attention that when we get to be in the national news. And I would suggest, I would invite the parents are here, this is very adventurous, to perhaps pick a date, maybe next Monday, and be all of us. We are 3,000 students, 6,000 parents, half of that number, makes 4,000 people in front of the university. 18th Street won't be able to function. This town is going to be paralyzed for 10 minutes maybe because of the amount of people. We are going to be in the national news, and there's going to be a lot of pressure for this issue to be solved some way, one way or the other. So again, just coming out of my heart here, it's very easy to text people, parent to parent. I would say let's speak next Monday and let's be on the street at 8, 10 in the morning, and let's see what happens.
My answer to that would be, why wait till Monday, okay? We'd like to be in the classroom on Friday, okay? Do it tomorrow.
I would say, for this to be successful, the voice needs to get out, and the kids needs to communicate with each other, and the parents to make some arrangements. So, we have lost already plenty of time. I don't know, it doesn't matter what the time is, but I just came with a date, So, if I want it's okay, it's Monday, otherwise my fellow parents here can change it.
Friday, how about Friday? Friday? Friday. Go back to
Okay, Friday or Monday?
Listen.
Friday?
May I have the floor for a moment, please? On Friday, we have faculty members from across Canada coming to support the picket. That would be such a great support for...
Well, we don't want to take part with either one. We want to be the parents. So Monday morning. Thursday. Monday morning, okay?
My question is quite specific to music because we have applied lessons and some students will have not had lessons for a month, pending how long the strike is. What can be done to help students with that issue?
The last strike, we got back to teaching applied lessons immediately. And in some cases, instead of once a week, they were twice a week. The point of applied lessons is you pick up where the students are. So in other words, the first lesson will be, I'm sure, an evaluation, my lessons anyway. I'll evaluate where the students are and then we'll progress as quickly and catch up as much as we possibly can, which will probably involve more than one lesson a week. But it'll vary again with each individual student and the amount of time that they are going to have to practice.
I'd like to address a point or two to something that Dr. Payton said a while ago, that the university traditionally runs surpluses. I spent 5 years in administration, and I think I had one surplus during that 5-year period. And the university was not running surpluses routinely at those times. Also, it's my understanding that the payment they have to make to the pension fund is mandated, and it's not just, oh, we got $12,000 left over this year. Somebody died and it didn't have to replace them, so we can put that money in towards the pension fund. I don't think it's like that.
Thank you, Larry. Basically, I'm talking about the period post the 90s. For the period post-90s, you will see, if you go to the audited financial statements, which are on the university website, you will see that there are significant surpluses each year. When you were there, I haven't looked at that, it was a long time ago. On the pension plan, clearly there was an evaluation done as of December this last year. As a consequence of that evaluation, an ongoing commitment was identified. That amounts to 3.12 million, and basically that is to be paid monthly by the university. So that 3.12 million for this year starts January through to December of this year. The obligation by June was met by surpluses from last year. And they have budgeted, despite that, 3.12 million in this year's budget. Now what happens next? Because there was an ongoing situation this last year, there is a required second evaluation, December this year. They won't know the result of that until May of 2012. So basically this budget year will be over. And then if necessary, there will be another one the following year. We have a ratio at this point of 0.789, and that ratio has to reach 0.9 before, in fact, that obligation is gone. We have recognized that, they have budgeted for that, the worst case scenario they've budgeted for. And clearly we can still identify resources to achieve what BUFA would like to do.
My name is Dick McDonald. I've been involved with Brandon University for almost 60 years. My wife and 3 sons have all attended and done extremely well along the way. I worked for Richardson Securities for 27 years. If you check the board in next to the office of the president, you'll see Richardson's have donated multi-millions of dollars to Brandon University. I've been on the fundraising for the BU&U campaign. I'm on the fundraising committee now, so we're trying to raise money. I've had several people say to me, I'm not going to donate any money to Brandon University under the circumstances that we're in right now. So we had a homecoming planned for a couple of weeks ago. On Wednesday, faculty went on strike. All the plans for the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday had to be postponed. We don't know if we're ever going to get back to it. I know one individual from Vancouver who sold a business for multi-millions of dollars, planned to be here. His wife had been lady sick. He did not come because the fact was canceled. He may never, ever come back. Now, we may lose $1 million in donations. I personally donated over $100,000 to Brandon University. 93,000 of that was doubled for scholarships. Over the last month, I have raised $30,000 for scholarships, which is doubled, and $10,000 for the Wellness Center. Now, all I want to know is, why would you call a strike on a Wednesday when we have all these people coming back for homecoming? There were 120 people signed up for it, and all of a sudden they had to cancel flights and hotels, etc., etc. Why would you do that when we're trying to raise money?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your long record of donating to Brandon University. The answer to your question is, we did not cancel homecoming. We had not intended to cancel homecoming. We have nothing to do with that. The scheduling of that belongs to someone else.
Hey, I have a question. What happens when everyone, like the contracts get signed and everything's settled,
and everyone goes back to classes, except the number of students wanting to go to Brandon University has declined by maybe 50% or more. No one wants to go to school because there's going to be a strike every 3 years. So you can't get a whole degree.
I've been a professor here for over 30 years. The quality of education that we give our students is better than none. We have graduates who have gone on to excel in every area of academic endeavour. Students come here because they have an opportunity to get to know their professors personally. We believe in that. Basically, in this situation, evaluation of what university to go to will be based on a whole variety of parameters. And one of those has traditionally been advertised by the university as being small classes and the relationship with the professors and a quality education. The enrollments at Brandon University over the time I've been here have been up and down for a whole variety of reasons. The farm economy is hit and we see reductions. The highest enrollment ever was actually in the early 90s. And we in fact have declined quite a bit since then. And part of that, I would say, is that basically we cannot now offer the quality of education that was available prior to the 1990s. And that is one of the reasons why we're asking to improve conditions so that we can put on better programs and in fact, of course, also carry out more research and involve our students in research, which is one of the pluses of a small institution like this. I should mention as well, it doesn't help if the recruiter is not replaced by the administration this last year.
Hello, you've answered my question in part from the previous person. The one thing that seems to be remiss here on both sides is we are all here by choice. We are all attending this university, and our students children are attending this university by choice. We've already asked ourselves and are considering another university. My question is, and you've already answered in part, do you have an outline specific to stop the exodus of students as this strike carries on and on?
Well, the short answer to your question is that we would. The short answer is we don't have any formal plan or anything like that. The short answer is that when we get back to work, people will see the value of what we do. We'll see the value of an education here, and we'll come back. It's your, it is indeed a matter of choice. And it is in one sense, but the other sense is that when people see that we are committed to this institution, that we are not sort of here in transit to someplace else, that we have given our very essence to this institution, and that we are devoted to delivering the highest quality of education to our students, then that should suffice in the short, intermediate, and long run to keep people here.
Thank you. It's also a matter of simple math. At what point in time do we consider our costs here redundant?
I can't answer that.
I know. We'll answer that for ourselves, and I ask everyone here to question themselves in that regard. And also to put pressure on your MLAs, MPs. I know this is a private university, but there are other avenues that we can speak our voice. And be very pointed about it. You're losing my vote. Period.
Good evening. I just arrived here from Pine Creek First Nation, which is a little bit over 2 hours north. And first of all, I heard somebody say they have email addresses or a way of contacting the Board of Governors, and if you can come and tell me how to do that, I'd really appreciate it. But unlike this gentleman here, I'm the guidance counselor. I'm the post-secondary guidance counselor for Pine Creek First Nation. I came and visited with the students last week, and part of our discussion was finding a different place for them to go to school. Because right now we're paying and they're not getting instructed. That's the bottom line, guys. You guys up there, all of you teachers, all of you people from the administration, you're the one I'm pointing the finger at. Because it's everybody on both sides of this strike. And who's suffering. We're making plans to look for a different university for our students. In the big picture, it's only $60,000 or $70,000 compared to the millions you guys are talking. But if I have my way, and you guys don't go back to school soon, I would not recommend Brandon University for my students again. I've only been at this job for a year, but I understand this is the second time in 3 years that this has happened. I have no ill will against any of you or any of the administrators. I've heard about Brandon University for many years, being a good place to be. All the things that were said about I believe you said that students have a very personal experience with the teachers. And as a former student myself, I can say I really appreciate that. But if our students aren't being taught when we're paying for it, you guys don't look like a very viable solution for us. And we're looking to move our students. Thank you.
This is a difficult time for all of us, but you can please be assured that we have done everything possible at the table so far to get an agreement, and that we will continue to do that to resolve this matter as quickly as possible. But you have to remember, right, that the principle of working out differences together is one that is central to us, just as it is to you.
I just wanted to answer the question about where to send your concerns to if you wanted to contact the Board of Governors. People are getting the pens out. The email address for the board is board, BOARD, at brandonu.ca. It is not a listserv. It does not automatically go to all the Board of Governors members, so I suggest you do one of two things. One, I suggest that you CC either Deandra or Jonathan as the student representatives so that they can make sure that it is in fact received by the board. Deandra's email is PRES at busu.ca, and Jonathan's is bpi at busu.ca. The other option you have is to call the president's office and follow up after you sent your email to ensure that it actually has gone out, because we don't want people to be forwarding comments or concerns that the board never hears.
I just want to share why I picked Brandon University for a post-secondary education. When I first looked at going into university, my plans are going to go into engineering. And my initial thought was to get my prereqs for engineering at a different university. In my second year, I changed my mind and decided to stay here. And one of the reasons is like I'm in the Department of Physics, and I'm supposed to be graduating this year. We'll see how it turns out. But if I'm not mistaken, every single one of the people that are supposed to be graduating this year, and most of the people that are in third year in physics right now, all have done research with the profs. This is a big thing when students are looking at going to grad school or other universities to further their education. I just think that students really have to consider that, and parents have to consider that when they're looking at universities. And that's one of the really great things about Brandon University.
I just have a really quick question and an analogy, I guess, to go along with the question. You guys have mentioned, and I think we all understand, or most people anyway, that mediation or conciliation, mediation are kind of an ideal. That's where we want to be. But I think, as most parents can say, at a certain point, watching your kids fighting in the playground, a parent has to intervene. And I think that's what I see right now. I see two kids fighting in the playground, and they really need an adult, somebody with a third party, somebody without the differences, to come in and deal with the issues. So when will somebody step in to deal with the issues that are on the table?
It's kind of funny because one of the things I was thinking about talking about here as I was driving in was the analogy with when my daughter was 2 years old, and the question of how you deal with a kid who consistently says no, and no, and no, and no. One of the things you have to have, of course, if you're a parent, is patience and enough wisdom to try to convince them that the question or the continuous answer of no has to be revisited or rethought. We are not two children fighting. At least BUFA is not a child in squabbling in the street. That analogy is simply misplaced. We are attempting to, in a straightforward, in good faith manner, trying to negotiate and to complete an agreement to negotiate the differences between us. We are not children fighting. It's not a little game, and for us, as well as I would tell you, for us as well as most folks, the students, even the administration, this is a very serious situation. We are trying to resolve it, and we will continue to do so. But it is not a child's game. Because we will win.
Okay, I'm a concerned parent, but one thing I want to say is I've been through several negotiations myself in non-related industry for sure. And when you talk about conciliators, arbitrators, there's sometimes there isn't a winner out of it on either side in the end. So the point that I want to make is, this can go on, but there's got to come a time where, enough's enough. Maybe both parties won't win. But one thing that disturbs me on this, when that fine lady back here was talking about enthusiasm in the classroom, it was mentioned up there, and I'm not here to embarrass anybody or anything like that, but it was mentioned, if we don't get, a good, not necessarily exactly what we want, it's easier to be more enthusiastic if you get what you want. Well, I'll tell you something, I'm probably no different than anybody else. You don't always get what you want. But the thing is, sometimes it takes a conciliator or arbitrator to end it. And what that does in the end, it puts these fine students back in the classrooms where they choose to go, and it puts you people back to work too. That's not a bad thing at all. That's what it's all about. Choose not to use them, but they're there. That's why they're there. There's a reason for them. It's a last resort, but I'll tell you, I think it's getting close to a last resort.
On Tuesday night, we drove into Winnipeg
to meet with the mediator. In our initial interaction with him, he said indeed along the lines that you have mentioned, both sides may have to hold their nose. With the position that we presented in our last piece of paper, I was holding my nose. And basically, I haven't seen any holding of noses on the other side.
Hi, my name is Megan Paramaki Brown. I'm a sessional instructor in anthropology here at Brandon University. I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of Calgary. So at the moment in my life, I'm functioning both as a student and as a faculty member at a university. I just wanted to say, with regards to some of the issues that have come up, for example, the sessional, I'm one person who has had an advantage because of my ability to come here as a sessional instructor. Not only has it been an advantage, I would hope, for students in our small anthropology department, because we've been able to replace some classes that would have been left out because we have two members that are on sabbatical. It's also been an advantage for me as a student, as a new professional, that this has been my attempt to, or my practice essentially, to come into the classroom to learn how to be a good teacher. And so this idea of not having sabbatical replacements is a huge issue. It may seem a small issue and one that is rarely being touched on in the press, but it's a huge issue, not just for Brandon's and the students of Brandon themselves, but for the entire this entire system of university education and the creation of teachers for the future. Never mind if I go on to stay here at Brandon, but go on somewhere else. So these are important topics that are extending not only into the University of Brandon, but to all universities everywhere, and I can't stress that enough. The other thing I just wanted to say was I've been a student in a department that has been forced into arbitration for a contract, and it is not a pretty picture. And that has to do with that issue of collegiality. When you use the example of the two kids fighting in the playground and one adult who comes in to deal with it, however, it doesn't turn out as well as telling those kids they need to figure out how to sort things out, how to figure out how to share with each other and learn that way. That is the best situation. Being a student in a department with huge fractures because of forced arbitration where some people agree and some people don't is a horrible experience as a student and as a faculty member, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So I strongly encourage that we do continue working at that negotiating table, because overall it creates an atmosphere that's favorable to all of us. Thanks.
Hi, I'm a student in my second year, and I've watched the time go by and pass and missing my essay dates, my exam dates, my pop quizzes. And you said that there's not going to be a test the first day back, but what am I supposed to do right now? Am I supposed to just go over my old material or try to read ahead, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do to try to prepare for class, because when we come back it's going to be so fast to learn everything. So
what we've said from the very start is that when you start your first day of your course, you're handed a course syllabus, which basically outlines everything you're going to be studying over the whole term. So what you should be doing is going through the course syllabus, trying to keep up with your reading, and trying to keep as much on top of the subject as you can, so that as soon as we get back into the classroom, you're ready to go, and we can build on what you've already established and try to get a running start basically and finish off the term and try not to jam everything in together in 1 week or two.
Okay, so this is going to be more of a question. I've been sort of reading that the administration has based their proposals off of the U of M and U of W. Now, is this just for the financial aspect, or is this for in general? And what do you guys think this is fair, not fair?
There have been a variety of reasons that have been given for the salary proposals that they have put forward. The language proposals that they have put forward were never justified on the basis of a similarity to what the University of Manitoba, University of Winnipeg have recently negotiated or anything like that. The salaries of their opening position was 002. They argued that they argued two things. First, they argued that there was some sort of provincial government mandate to hold salary increases at universities to 002. We asked them early on for a copy of the directive that established that. They said they would look for it. They came back a month later saying it didn't exist because, quote, the government doesn't say or put things like that in paper. And it's fairly true. They wouldn't. This government particularly wouldn't, because while there was a wage freeze in the civil service, and while there were some guidelines for crown corporations, there is a statutory arm's length distance between the provincial government and the university. So it would be contrary to law to have them impose wage settlements at the beginning of negotiations on us, and to make that kind of demand or directive. They didn't talk about that sort of thing until Thursday, I think it was, when we were in Winnipeg, and they wanted to call in a bureaucrat, some bureaucrat from the government, who would, quote, tell us that there was indeed a mandate that applied to the universities that involved 0, and 2 as a salary settlement. They did that at about 4:30. We said, well, look, have the gentleman put the statements in writing, and we'll be happy to consider it. And he hasn't done that. And that means that the settlements that we're talking about here, while they are in part reflected in like the University of Manitoba and the University of Winnipeg have done some small settlement packages in the first couple of years. Their justification is our justification, or the justification of the employer here, is that they want to follow along those lines, even though we've been bargaining a year later. The university's got more money that was given to them by the provincial government, and that the conditions don't apply, and that there is no mandate. They simply refer to that as if it had some probative significance. But we aren't the University of Winnipeg. We aren't the University of Manitoba. We're Brandon University.
Every year, BUFA meets in September with the Council on Post-Secondary Education. The day that they're here, they meet with the administration, they meet with the students, and they meet with the Faculty Association. That is the body that communicates direction from government to universities. I showed you the document that is publicly available with that communication. So they ask questions about pensions, they ask questions about remuneration and negotiations. We asked the COPSI board directly, are you aware of any such mandate to the universities? And they indicated, both the director, who's a bureaucrat, and the chair, that there was none such mandate. There was a mandate to the civil service, and that was publicly proclaimed in the Free Press. I think it was 2008.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not a public speaker, but I have been sitting here listening to our professors up there, which, for the sake of our children, I hope that you do end up being satisfied, again, for the sake of our children. I have a first-year student at BU. My goal was to actually have both of my children be educated and with a degree. I've been very positive to my son, But when you say that, this is just comments, I don't need any comments back from you. I do have one specific question for you that I don't quite understand. But when you say that they should be reviewing their syllabuses and moving forward, I'm not exactly sure that a first-year university student in calculus can actually self-teach himself. And I'm quite concerned. I do have 90 plus children, so they are not going into this blind, and I am trying to keep him very positive that he needs to keep working so that he's ready. But I'm not exactly sure if he is going to be ready as every day ticks by. I do also have a question with regards to sabbaticals, which maybe somebody can answer me on this. Is that when a professor goes on sabbatical, are they paid for that sabbatical? Or I'm not exactly sure why the university is not replacing these professors if it's not a monetary situation.
As to your first comment, the question was asked, what should students be doing during the strike? And I gave the best answer I could about what they should be doing. And I don't think a first-year student should be capable of teaching calculus to themselves. However, they should be trying to get as much as they can so that when they're back in the classroom, the teachers can right away get to the kernel of what's confusing them and make them advance quicker.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with that, and that is what I have been trying to impress to him, but that's not exactly what I paid for. And I'm not trying to take sides because in the end, I want you professors happy with the result so it benefits my child. And that's who we should be most concerned, and I'm hoping after this evening that everyone understands that we're all concerned about the students, and that is one thing we can agree on. Now with sabbatical, I'm still not quite sure on that.
Sabbatical leaves are an entitlement to our members. It depends on whether you take a full year sabbatical or a half year sabbatical. The purpose is to allow you to it removes all of the teaching and scholarship, or sorry, not scholarship, but service requirements from an individual. Usually what happens in sabbaticals is that people go to some other location to do research on specific projects. You have to have a sabbatical plan that tells out what you're going to be researching and what your plan is for doing that. If you take a full year sabbatical at Brandon University, a whole year, a full sabbatical, you get paid 80% of your salary. If you take a half sabbatical, which is within 6 months, it's a 6-month period, then they will give you a full, it'll be a full salary. The idea is to inspire and to further the research, the scholarship and research activity of people, of the professors and those who are engaged in scholarship research activity here. And it has been a traditional feature of universities since about the 1800s, and we have that enshrined in our collective agreement. With respect to your other comment, I have a daughter at this institution, and there's nothing more than I wish that for not only her or for the rest of us and for everybody in this room, that we can resolve this expeditiously. It's not that I don't like being here talking to you or sitting at the table and talking to these other people that are confronting us. It's not that I don't like it, but it's just that sometimes you have to do what you have to do, and that's part of life and part of a learning experience for us all.
If you wanted a bit more elaboration on sabbaticals, you can use me as an example. I hope you think it's a good one. Maybe you won't. I'm about to get my first sabbatical ever. It starts January 1st. It goes to December 31st. I was successful in an application to be a visiting scholar at the University of Pittsburgh in January, so I'll be there for the term, studying with a very prominent, very senior international scholar. And in the September term, I'm hopeful, and it's looking good, that I'll be a visiting scholar at the University of Glasgow in Scotland, studying with another, his hometown, studying with another very reputable, very world-renowned scholar. And at the end of that, I'll come back to Brandon University, and I expect to be quite a bit smarter. I hope I'm a little bit smarter, and I will be able to bring to my classes stuff that right now I probably just can't even comprehend, can't even dream of. I'm expecting to be able to come back here and deliver in both first, second, third year classes material, teaching techniques, knowledge that that I'm going to get through this opportunity that I wouldn't get by any stretch if I didn't have the opportunity. So that's how I'll be using mine.
I just want to speak to the political science professor's comments about being valued. I appreciate that you want to be valued in your job, and you'll maybe be a better professor if you're valued in your job. But in the end, both sides, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated. I think a lot of people are getting close to anger, and it is time to put the value with the students and put them first.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Hi. I think something we all have to realize is that they are putting us first. Maybe not this year, maybe not the year after that, maybe not the year after that. But you know what? Brandon University will ultimately be a better place because they have taught me as a student to stick to what I believe in. Even though it means, hundreds of people get mad at you, you're doing what's right for the future good of a well-renowned university. And so yeah, you know what? We're pissed off, excuse the language. But we're pissed off for a good reason, and so are they. And as frustrating as this is for all of us, I think we have to wait it out and see the good that will happen. Because I have faith in my teachers, because they have taught me well.
It kind of seems like we're running down here a little bit. What I might suggest is if there are no more questions, if people wanted to hang around a little bit and maybe ask questions one-on-one rather than in a full public forum, if nobody objects to that. Does anybody want to make any closing statement?
Just one. Like, one thing that everyone has to remember, I think, is that, particularly students, is that our working conditions are your learning conditions, and we have to strive always to improve those. This is one of the ways in which we can do it collectively, and that's what we're trying to make Brandon University ultimately a better place. Right. Thank you for coming.
Yes, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming. We appreciate all of your comments, all of your concerns, all of your questions. Thank you very, very much for coming, and I hope we answered at least some of your questions.
Thank you for holding
Good night.
Thank you.
What?